She believed that the financial stranglehold her husband had placed on her would eventually break her spirit. Devin, with a proud and smug expression, declared one day, "I have blocked all your cards. Now, if you want anything, even something as basic as pads, you will have to ask me for money." His mother, Brenda, who always sided with Devin, gave a knowing nod and a self-satisfied smirk. They were both convinced that a hungry and dependent woman would quickly lose her voice and become obedient. They basked in their power, sure of their control over her, but their confidence was about to be challenged. Within less than an hour, a sudden and urgent phone call came from the bank. "Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to my channel, where I share fascinating and heartfelt stories. I hope you enjoy this one." Alina pushed open the door to the apartment and froze in the hallway, her heart pounding as she overheard Brenda's voice carrying from the kitchen. Brenda was on the phone with a friend, but she spoke loudly enough for the whole apartment to hear every bitter word. "Well, Sharon, what can I say? The kids have been living with me for 3 years now, and there's no gratitude whatsoever. I cook all their meals, do their laundry, and still, she turns up her nose at everything. Just yesterday, she bought herself an $800 coat. Can you imagine? She's living off me, doesn't pay any utilities, yet spends on fancy clothes." Alina carefully removed her work heels and placed them neatly on the shelf by the door. She took off her coat, the very same dark blue one that had recently been the source of yet another round of Brenda's harsh criticism. Quietly, she moved toward the bedroom, trying her best not to attract attention. But Brenda had a way of sensing exactly when her daughter-in-law came home, no matter how quietly she tried to move. "No, I'm not saying anything, Sharon," Brenda continued loudly into the phone. "Let her live here, sure. But she has such an opinionated personality, always wanting to argue. Just the day before yesterday, she started debating politics in front of Mr. Sterling. I nearly died of embarrassment." "Who does she think she is?" Alina closed the bedroom door behind her and leaned against the frame, exhaling a long breath of frustration and exhaustion. 3 long years. 3 whole years of enduring this daily barrage of insults and control. 3 years of biting back tears and screaming silently inside while forcing a smile and nodding in forced agreement. When Alina and Devin had married, Brenda had seemed like a kind woman. Strict, yes, but well-meaning. "You two can live with me for a while," she had said. "Save up quietly without paying rent or extra expenses. I'll help you." But that so-called help lasted only a month after the wedding. Small criticisms started piling up quickly. "Alina, you oversalted the soup." "Alina, why didn't you close the bathroom window again? Why did you buy that brand of organic yogurt?" "I specifically asked for the other one." Gradually, these petty complaints grew into a relentless system of control. Brenda watched Alina's every move, when she left the apartment, when she came back, whom she spoke to, and even what she cooked for dinner. Devin mostly stayed silent, sometimes agreeing with his mother, sometimes just shrugging. He never knew how to stand up to Brenda. It was always easier for him to keep quiet and wait for things to blow over. At first, Alina had tried talking to Devin, explaining how unbearable this situation was. But he would just shrug and say, "That's just how Mom is. You have to deal with it for a little while. We'll move out soon." But soon stretched into 3 years. Now, standing by the window and looking out at the cold gray streets, slick with the March thaw, Alina thought about the money she had saved. Over $25,000, her secret savings. Every month, she put aside nearly all of her net salary of $4,500 into this account, which Devin barely knew existed. He only knew she had a checking account, but never asked about the balance. He transferred $500 a month to her secondary card, treating her like a teenager given an allowance rather than a responsible adult with her own finances. Alina opened the closet, grabbed her gym bag, and threw in her workout clothes. She planned to start going back to the gym first thing tomorrow morning, something she had been wanting to do for a while. Brenda would surely criticize her for wasting money on gym membership instead of groceries or bills, even though Brenda never let them pay for utilities, always insisting, "It's my house. I pay for it." And she never missed an opportunity to remind Alina of that. Suddenly, footsteps sounded outside her door. Brenda had finished her call and was probably coming to check on her. Alina quickly changed into comfortable clothes, tied her hair back in a ponytail, and looked at herself in the mirror. At 31, she looked tired but not defeated. She was a senior financial controller handling millions of dollars for a construction company, yet here she was, criticized over minor things like how to set the forks at dinner. The door creaked open, and Brenda peeked in, giving her a critical once-over. "You're back? Dinner's in half an hour. I roasted a chicken. Don't tell me later that it's dry. It's fresh, Brenda. I bought it myself this morning," Alina replied calmly. "I'll help set the table," Alina offered. "No need. I'll do it myself. You just mess it up." Last time you put the forks on the wrong side, Brenda said dismissively, closing the door. Alina clenched her fists and counted to 10. She was 31 years old. She had a high-powered job managing millions of dollars, yet here she was, being scolded for fork placement. Pulling out her phone, she checked her bank balance again, $200. Just 3 more months. Then she could finally move out, rent a small apartment, pay the security deposit, and buy some basic furniture. She had everything planned. She just had to hold on and keep quiet, no matter how much she wanted to scream. Dinner was cold and tense, just like every day. Brenda controlled every moment. Devin remained passive. Alina's silent resolve grew stronger. Her freedom was coming, soon. Devin was probably sprawled lazily on the couch in the living room, his eyes glued to the flickering screen of the television. It was just another typical evening in their life, a life that had settled into a monotonous routine over the past 3 long years. Alina, sitting quietly in the dim light of their small apartment, unlocked her phone and opened the Notes app, where she had carefully saved a list of apartments she was seriously considering. These were modest, 1-bedroom apartments located on the outskirts of the city. Not too fancy, but clean, safe, and recently renovated. The rent prices ranged between $200 and $2,500 a month, a figure that was completely manageable if she was only paying for herself and didn't have to share expenses with anyone else. She had done her homework. A deposit was required, usually the equivalent of 1 month's rent, meaning she needed about $3,000 up front to secure a place. Then came the furniture. She would start with only the basics, just enough to make her new apartment comfortable and functional. A sleeper sofa that could double as a bed for guests, a simple dining table, and a dresser to store her clothes. If she was careful and shopped for quality second-hand pieces, she could keep this cost under $5,000. Beyond that, there were smaller expenses for dishes, bedding, and other household necessities, about another $2,000. Altogether, she calculated the total moving costs to be approximately $10,000. This would still leave her with a healthy cushion of $15,000, a financial safety net for the first few months after moving in. While she adjusted to her new life on her own, Alina double-checked her calculations to reassure herself. Yes, everything was realistic, achievable even. In exactly 3 months, she could pack her bags and walk away from this stifling household. All she had to do was keep her head down, not lose her temper, and avoid giving Devin or Brenda any reason to start a scene. The door to the bedroom creaked open slightly, and Devin poked his head inside. "I'm going to bed now," he announced tiredly. "Got an early start tomorrow." "Okay," Alina replied softly, watching him move toward the closet and pull out his pajamas. She stared at his back with a mixture of feelings swirling inside her. Once she had loved this man deeply. 4 years ago, at a lively party hosted by mutual friends, Devin had seemed charming, funny, and attentive. His courtship had been a dream. Flowers, long walks, spontaneous weekend trips. They married a year later, with promises of a happy future together. He said he wanted to build a family with her, that she was the one he saw his life with. But then came the move into Brenda's house. And Devin changed. Or perhaps more accurately, he revealed his true nature. The man who had been raised under his mother's strict control and never learned to say no. For years, Brenda had been the dominant force, her shadow looming over every part of their lives. Alina had tried for so long to change the situation, talking, pleading, explaining. But Devin only nodded, promising to speak with his mother, yet nothing ever changed. It was easier for him to agree silently, to wait, and to pretend everything was fine. "Why aren't you asleep?" Devin asked as he changed clothes, his voice low. "Just thinking," Alina said quietly. "About what?" he pressed. "Different things," she replied evasively. With a shrug, Devin lay down on his side of the bed. Within minutes, his breathing evened out, and he was fast asleep. Alina sat for a while longer, staring out into the dark night beyond the window. Finally, she pulled the covers over herself, the weight of her plans and hopes pressing quietly on her heart. From the kitchen, through the thin walls, she could hear Brenda's voice again. This time she was on the phone with someone else, probably her sister Denise. They had nightly conversations filled with news and gossip. Alina couldn't catch the exact words, but the tone was unmistakably the same, full of self-righteousness and quiet judgment. Closing her eyes, she whispered to herself, 3 months. Endure just 3 more months, then slam the door and never hear that voice again. Never be lectured about over-salted soup or forks placed on the wrong side of the plate. Never feel powerless in a house that isn't hers. Deep inside, a small, cold spark of calculated determination glowed, not anger but a quiet malice. Alina was not the type to cause scenes or raise her voice. She was patient and methodical. When the time came, she would leave so quietly, so calmly, that Brenda wouldn't even realize she had lost her easy target until it was far too late. Her last thought before drifting to sleep was this plan: packing her things, calling a taxi, and walking out without looking back or offering any explanations. She would simply leave and let them figure out how to live without her. Alina stood silently just outside the kitchen door, listening to the argument unfold. Devon's voice was rising now, frustration and disbelief clear in every word. "But Mom, this is all your money, but it's still our apartment, our bills. You can't just do whatever you want with that much cash without telling me." Brenda's tone hardened, almost dismissive. "I'm the one managing the household finances. I know what's best. You're too busy with work to understand these things." Devon ran a hand through his hair. "It's not just about understanding, Mom. It's about trust and communication. You took out a huge loan without telling me or Alina. What if something goes wrong? What if you can't pay it back?" Brenda scoffed. "Do you think I don't know what I'm doing? I'm not a child. And Alina? Well, she can't be trusted with money anyway." Alina felt her blood boil, but she stayed silent, knowing any reaction would only fuel the fire. Her mind raced. This was exactly the kind of control and manipulation she was trying to escape. Brenda's grip was tightening, and Devon was too passive to stop it. Devon's voice softened, almost pleading. "Mom, please. We're a family. Let's make these decisions together." Brenda shook her head, firm. "Decisions like this? That's my responsibility. And don't forget, I'm the one paying the mortgage, the utilities, everything. You two live here rent-free. I'm the adult." The weight of Brenda's words hung heavily in the air. Alina closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. This wasn't her home anymore. Outside the kitchen, she pulled out her phone and sent a quick message to Shayla. 3 months, Shayla. Counting down. Then, quietly, she stepped back into the hallway, out of sight, and prepared herself for whatever would come next.